Ha cwt gen fiach gyfel rugby nat ul nhw dy sawn a sielog nhw a haw, agos chabor nach el cacht of rugby na h-Alba Molly Wright a gyntagog leishin.
Do you know, I get this all the time, and I don't think it's all that stereotypical, because for me it's definitely true. I started playing rugby at 4, and my dad was a coach, and you just get sucked into that lifestyle. So I feel like I have lived and breathed rugby my whole life. They couldn't stop me from playing. I think my mum would have much preferred that I played netball, but here we are. So I grew up in a very rural part of New Zealand. So I played with the boys and for as long as I could, so it was until I was about 13 or 14. And then rugby just wasn't an option for girls in my area. So I had to play a different sport for a number of years until I went into university. At university, I played for my university club, and it was the first time during that time that I built up. We had some really good coaching, and that I felt really supported and well coached. And to that point at university, I got my first opportunity to play at provincial level in New Zealand for Otago. So it was kind of that real growth in the game so that I could play at a higher level, not just at a club level. And then building on that into where we are now.
As Jewigi came na chug van Olai mar anakler Cuir, ha Molly in a stage an the donation with the gari tor na bear.
I first moved to London prior to moving to Scotland in 2017. And I moved more for a change in lifestyle to develop my professional career as a physio and to see a bit of the world. And so rugby definitely took a back step. I wasn't playing any rugby for a couple of years. And I don't regret doing that. I had a really enjoyable time. I saw lots of Europe and the world, which was part of why I'd left New Zealand. And then coming to Scotland, I probably, growing up in rural New Zealand, wasn't well suited to a London lifestyle. So Scotland had always appealed to me, and I'd made many trips to Edinburgh and Glasgow, and I loved it. So I decided to move. And it was only once I'd found myself settled in Scotland that I was like, right, I need to make some friends, and back into rugby reform.
Hwyd Molly falch of laf o skipper Watsonians agus an the davilis yn eich diach chai a heniamachug mar clicket yn y game an so hwyd gyd yn y cwpa sêr a bini. Agus hwyd Molly yn corum click to skipper nasiant yn the h-Alba leis gyfili a ffwydach yn the h-Alba, rwydd hwg tolachus gaf Arenton.
They're very, very supportive of any decision that I'm looking at doing. So yes, I discussed it with them, because obviously for me, looking at playing for a national team, I'm looking at settling here. And that's really, really hard for my parents that won't travel. There's no way that they'll get on a plane to come this far. So I think it was hard for them in the fact that I'm now looking at setting down roots here. But equally, they're so proud of any achievement, and playing international rugby for the country that you love now is, I think, the only thing they can be is proud.
Na the vai Katie Jiggy click dog h-Alba. Hwyd Molly score an sy hyd gem aica yn ei Esbany an sy nylach ficat, with the high gama h-Alba.
It was one of my favorite days. That whole weekend was a fantastic experience. I think any of the girls that were involved in the Spain camp speak fondly of it. The vibe that was in the team at the time, it felt good. We were in sunny Spain. We played good rugby. We got a win. It was a fantastic occasion to debut on, for sure. And it's a moment that, like, I at that stage had been working really, really, really hard to try and achieve that. It was definitely one of my big goals for the year, was to get capped, but equally to try and fit into a team that had obviously been well established.
So glasig, Gidach Anthony Mias yn y chai siachad, wat dŵlan Jeffreyche is hosigid Molly, na the gari gehoped mar anakler Cuir, gyfitosh taith di dynja, y vas 3 le COVID yn eich diach.
I was quite lucky to have a job where I could still keep coming into work. I wasn't worried about employment. The rehab journey for people, not just post-COVID, but any person who was unwell during that period, was challenging for both healthcare professionals and patients and families alike, because everyone was working in isolation. You know, people couldn't go and visit their loved ones in hospital. which is a huge part of the recovery if you've been really, really unwell. So it was challenging in that we were providing a lot of the support, I suppose, that family members couldn't, and trying to facilitate that, whether we were organising, Skype calls so that the patients' families could see their rehabilitation as it was happening, or just being available for a chat for these patients who are sat in their own rooms, not able to see anybody. I can't imagine what it must have been like to be on the other side of that.
Le rugby jet agus táisiige go dtíos, sé an carm clic an den cúpan na crinne ficad sa hun an na sealag nuach an amas bevód de skipan h-Alba, agus go háras de volley, a chile gachi an over sonriche.
I mean, yeah, as an individual player, that would be a very special moment for me, because my parents will not ever have been able to see me play an international game, and that will allow them, it will give them the opportunity to come and watch in the flesh, which I think from their perspective is would be a special moment for them. For me, going to a World Cup or out of New Zealand would be an incredible achievement. So just to have it on the soil that I grew up in would be a very, very special moment, yeah.